As a travel nurse or as a future travel nurse, or even somebody who just moves around pretty frequently, how do you move to new cities, enjoy your time, explore the area, make new connections, and really just maximize your time and experience living in new places? In this episode of Confident Care Academy podcast, we are talking about 5 tips to really maximize and enjoy your experiences living in new places.
So I know that I've done a lot of starting over in life and moving around quite a bit. What was it like for you, though, as a new traveler?
I started travel nursing in October of 2020. There are a lot of you here who probably also started travel nursing around the same time. This was in the middle and like the peak of COVID. People were moving and relocating across the country, and they were really kind of uprooting and starting their lives over. For my first travel nursing contract, I didn't really have a sense of community within the travel nursing area, and I was brand new. Like, I had only been a nurse for a year, which I have YouTube videos about. I actually don't recommend traveling at 1 year anymore. It's kind of like extenuating circumstances given the pandemic. But I do have a few things I wished I had done differently. I was, 24 when I first started travel nursing. I signed a 60-hour contract. I didn't research either the agency or the location where I was moving. And I walked away from that first contract feeling really down about not only the pandemic, but also feeling really isolated and like I hadn't explored the area. So from that starting point, I never want other people to have that experience as a travel nurse. I want for people to enjoy the experience of living in new locations and then serving their communities. And I don't ever want somebody to feel like isolated and alone and overworked like I did my first travel contract.
I think one of the first key takeaways from that is to avoid doing 60-hour contracts if you can.
I would never recommend working a 60-hour contract. That's like a tangible takeaway. When you sign a contract for 60 hours, you are saying, hey, for the next 13 weeks, regardless of the working conditions that I know nothing about at the time, by the way, I'm going to work 5 days a week. I think that is, in retrospect, number one tip, don't sign a 60-hour contract. You can always work overtime, right? On a 36-hour contract, they tell you what your overtime rate is, and you can always pick up shifts. But if you sign a 48 or a 60-hour contract, you are obligated and you are locking yourself into working overtime. And that's a great way to end up burned out, honestly. And that, if you're starting off as a new travel nurse and you're burned out by the end of your first contract, then you're really limiting yourself on a ton of experiences and really cool opportunities to meet awesome people and travel cool places. So tip number 1, don't sign a 60-hour contract. You can always pick up if you want to work. But when it comes to kind of like not exploring an area, I think that's more like a nuanced topic, right? Because you have to actually plan and kind of spend some time investing in yourself and in a new area to like make connections, right?
I'm about to sound like a baby boomer right now, but I do think that this is a unique issue to younger people. I think a lot of people are so plugged into the internet that you might actually not know where to begin with making real life in-person connections when you start fresh in a new place. For most of us, we've made friendships through our zip code, right? Where you went to school, you've had repeat interactions with your classmates your whole life. Then you go either away to college or even for community college, you were seeing the same people in class all the time. You're entering study groups. You might have lived with them at university. You were forced into an in-person community that you made your friends with. Maybe at your first nursing job, you were plugged into a new grad cohort where, again, you were spending classroom time and out of classroom time with those same people. And now you take a travel nursing contract or you move to a new city and you no longer have school or a forced cohort or a university to kind of lump you in with a group of people who are similar to you anymore. So how are you going to explore and develop friendships and take care of your mental health and engage in community when you're in these new places? This is actually a really hard skill for people to develop, especially in the age of technology when we come to default so easily to scrolling on our screens when we have downtime.
I agree. There is a generational aspect. And I think travel nursing can be an answer to that. And hear me out. This is why I think that. I think a lot of people never push themselves out their comfort zone. If you stay in the area where you grew up and you had these connections from either college, high school, other activities, and you live there and you work there as a nurse, you never have to start over and you never have to put yourself out there. And I think even within communities where you have these natural bonds, like via your zip code, like you said, people are more isolated now than they ever have been in the past. And travel nursing, somewhere totally new for 13 weeks, forces you to either do something about it or be completely alone. I don't want y'all to be completely alone. I want for y'all to have a really good time and to get out of your shell and to make friends and make connections and like actually enjoy the area where you're living. So I think travel nursing can be like such a unique kind of catalyst for getting out there and then building a community completely from scratch. One thing I will say, as somebody who has now lived, Jackson, Mississippi, Denver, Baltimore, like LA County, San Jose, Denver again, briefly in Seattle, Portland, and now Salt Lake City for a little bit, is I've had to start over a lot in the last 6 years. And I've grown so much from that experience, and I've learned so much and built communities. And now I'm not afraid to start over. And that is something I wish that everybody could like take away from travel nursing. It really gives you the opportunity to like trust yourself. So what are some actual ways that you can actually organize and plan outings, events? What are resources that are available? Because Chrissy, you moved recently as well. Like, you've been in the Philly area for a really long time. I know you grew up on Long Island. But what's it been like? How have you like tangibly started to organize events where you're going to meet other people? How have you kind of gotten out as you've moved to New York?
So even though I grew up on Long Island, went to school, lived in Philadelphia for 14 years, and then just moved back to New York City, I've had to start over a multitude of times because I moved schools every 3 years my entire life. I've actually never had the same group of people for more than 3 years at a time until really when I started working my CRNA job in Philadelphia. That was actually my first time ever being somewhere for more than 3 years straight. Even my first degree in undergrad, I graduated early. I didn't even go to college for 4 years. So this is something I've definitely developed a skill at. The number one thing I would say is the best way to build any sort of relationship with someone is repeated exposure. So find one sort of consistent activity or hobby that you can get into in person. It's going to expose you to the same group of people over and over again. So when I went to college in the Philadelphia suburbs, Eastern University was my undergrad. My parents actually moved from Long Island to the Philadelphia suburbs as well during that time. So during summers and holidays, I actually went home to a town I had never been to before, and I didn't have any friends all of a sudden. So it was a very isolating time for me, especially when I graduated early and had to wait to start nursing school. That 6 months of a gap was one of the darkest times of my life. I was really sad and really alone. What got me through that phase was I joined a salsa class. I took salsa classes for the first time when I studied abroad in Mexico in college, actually.
It's amazing.
By the way, salsa and Mexico, like they're not related. Like that's not like a Mexican thing, but my university offered salsa courses. Anyway, just a quick aside.
Chrissy was there.
She was there. So I once a week went to salsa classes at a place called Salsa in the Suburbs in Media, Pennsylvania. And through that, I met a really unique group of people. It was 2 girls and a guy who were like all around my age. And so we all became fast friends. We were all at different stages of life and all kind of were looking to meet new people and do something different. And we ended up meeting every week for drinks beforehand, and we all stayed in touch, and we had like a little cute friend group. And then we would go into the city once in a while and like go to see the performances and, you know, go to the salsa clubs. And that was like a really great way to plug in with the community. I found that on every city on earth, every major city has a salsa dancing community.
Even in Utah, I looked.
Yeah, they're literally everywhere. Vietnam has salsa meetups. I mean, like every country, every city, there is a salsa meetup going on. So it's a really great way to meet people and plug in. Even if you can't even speak the same language, you are having a good time that night. So that's like one really great way to meet people is get involved in something that's routine, right? Whether it be, maybe you're not into dancing, but a yoga class where you're going the same day and time every week. Of course, that can be hard if you're in healthcare. Our schedules are often variable, but that's why actually I like dance too. Usually it's offered a few times a week, and then you can go on the weekends to the club. Meetup groups, running groups are very popular in every city across the US as well. Kickball teams, different types of like pickup sports like that are just really easy ways to like get in your exercise, stay active, meet people who are going to be somewhere in your age range, and looking for friends as well.
I think these are great tips, and they're also very in-person based tips. I will also say in relation to your workplace, especially if you're starting as a travel nurse, you have got to become okay with putting yourself out there. You have to learn to be okay with being told no if you want really cool things and cool opportunities. So it can be scary, But if you hit it off with a coworker or two, ask them to brunch after night shift.
Yeah. Be the first one to make the plan.
Maybe they're going to be busy. Maybe they won't. Maybe they don't want to have lunch with you. That's okay. But if you don't ask, if you're afraid to ask people to hang out, you're going to limit yourself and cut yourself off from so many amazing opportunities. So many people are actually afraid of being the planner friend. Being the planner friend, I have found to be like this massive kind of life hack at always having fun stuff to do. If you can host a dinner party, oh my gosh, you're set, right? Just be the person to invite people and be okay with people having other commitments or being busy or saying no. But if you are open and you are going to put yourself out there, which can be scary, you're going to make so many friends and it can be such a cool opportunity.
I actually had a fear of being the planner friend, which is probably surprising to hear because I'm very outgoing and very comfortable in who I am on the whole. But I think there is like a little bit of a fear of rejection. Like what if people come and don't have a good time? I like have a lot of pressure on myself to make sure people have fun. What if people cancel and then only a few other people show up and it looks lame? Like this is like kind of some weird deep-seated like insecurity that I think I might have developed from actually starting over with new friends every 3 years, always being the new kid. But I found that like when you do host and you do make the plan, people do come and people do have a good time. And, you know, the worst case scenario is not even a bad scenario, right? Like if people are not going to have a good time, that's not something that's under your control. Mm-hmm. And if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
If you don't ask, the answer is no, 100%. This is something kind of reflecting on like how Chrissy and I think we need to just do a whole episode talking about like how we grew up and how that kind of shaped who we are today. But we both had a very similar background in some ways of like beliefs and value systems. And we grew up similarly in that way. Something that I did take from the faith like values that I grew up around, which I now like don't correlate with as strongly, but that's like a whole separate episode. But I really do value like the building of community intentionally and being intentionally somebody who like wants to have people over and is going to host a meal and host gatherings. And I think that that is something that like will serve you so well no matter where you go, like being the hostess. And then on the flip side of that, it can be a little bit frustrating sometimes to be the only one who initiates and makes plans. However, you are never going to be short on things to do if you're the one who is not afraid to host a dinner party once every other month or so.
What's even more important than that is like making sure that you're not accidentally keeping score. This is not something I do, but I know a lot of people who do it. They're like, well, I made the plan the last 3 times and they didn't initiate, so they must not really want to be my friend. And it's important to just abandon that mindset completely.
Yeah, leave that behind. That's not going to serve you well.
Not everyone's a good planner. Some people are busy. Some people just need to be invited, and it's not personal to you. And if it is personal to you, you'll figure it out because they're going to say no. Again, you have to leave people to be responsible for their own emotions. But doing something small like hosting, if you have a tiny New York City apartment like I do, it doesn't have to be a dinner party. You can have like a board game night and just like order pizza or even just drinks. Like it doesn't have to be like something that's elaborate and takes up a lot of physical space. Or maybe you have everybody meet at an outside location. Like maybe you just book a reservation a month ahead for 12 people at a rooftop restaurant and you invite everyone to go. Or one really fun thing that my CRNA group did last week is had a bougie picnic. There's like these bougie picnic companies that
I want to do this so bad.
It's so cute. They like literally, you can find these people on Instagram. Just type in like picnic NYC, like picnic Philadelphia. You will find a picnic girly who will throw out these really adorable picnic blankets, picnic baskets. They'll bring the food. They'll bring like all the glassware, decor, and then you and your friends go and have this really adorable outing. So like that's something you can do in Central Park if you live in a tiny little closet-sized apartment like I do.
That is such a great tip. And then in relation to making plans, completely agree. You don't need to be the host, but you will 1,000,000% walk away from your time travel nursing with much better experiences if you're somebody who is intentional with your time about exploring the area where you're living. This can look like whatever it looks like to you. But if you are an outdoorsy girl and you're excited to be in Denver, for example, for a travel contract, make a notes app or however you want to organize it. I usually do it in Notes app or on Google Maps.
Google Maps has that amazing function.
Google Maps, you can make Chrissy was showing me her Google Maps folders with like hundreds or like dozens of different restaurants that you have kind of flagged that you want to go to, things that you loved, things that you would go to again. Start making lists of places that you want to go and then build on that over time. Where I'm in grad school, I have a notes app that has different categories. I've got hikes, I've got fun group activities, I've got like rooftop bars, I've got other types of restaurants I want to go to, date night ideas, camping ideas. All of these things, I think I'm going to walk away from my year and a half at this location really happy that I actually explored the area. And tying back to like my first travel nursing experience where I was overworked and I was pretty isolated, that's something that I have learned from and I won't repeat now because I'm not afraid to be the person to look up a restaurant and make a reservation.
It's so huge. Technology, I know in the beginning of the episode I said I sound like a boomer. Technology is like one of the things that I think makes it easy for us to not put ourselves out there. You can also use technology to your advantage. So use social media and apps. So we have Bumble Best Friend, or is it Bumble BFF? What's
I think it's
it called?
Bumble BFF, yeah.
Bumble BFF. I haven't used it myself, but I know several people who have had a lot of really good success with it. It's literally matching you for friendships in your area. And
it's like perfect.
It's so cool. Like, you know, the other person is looking for the same thing you are. Meetup groups, meetup.com is something that I've also used before. You can double dip. Let's say you have a goal this year of learning Spanish. There are Spanish language meetup groups where you can meet with a language learning partner and you guys just go to coffee shops and one day you only speak in Spanish and the next day you only speak in English.
That's so cool.
That person wants to learn English too. So you double dip, getting out of the house, exploring coffee shops, making a friend, and learning a new skill. Same thing with like rock climbing meetups or hiking meetups. Also using Facebook groups. I think a lot of us have forgotten that Facebook exists. I'm very involved in TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, and I forget that Facebook is a thing. Facebook groups are the number one benefit of the Facebook platform. And if you join a Facebook group, travel nursing Facebook groups, CRNA Facebook groups, the CRNA Facebook groups pop off, guys.
Yeah, they are always busy.
You can literally write on any of the discussion boards, hey guys, I just moved to this area. Are there any CRNAs here who'd like to meet up? And people will swarm. Like, it is such a welcoming community, the CRNA community. And I imagine that travel nurses are the same. So this is going to be a great way for you to plug in.
Absolutely can reiterate that travel nursing Facebook groups are a great place to meet up with people. And sometimes those travel nursing Facebook groups even have events that are planned like monthly where you meet up with a ton of other travelers from other hospitals, like not even at your same contract. I will also say this, travelers are a like-minded group of individuals. We're all here to enjoy our time and have some fun. I 100% recommend making friends with other travel nurses if you can. You kind of mentioned social media, and for us, that's been really interesting. I'll say like, I have a whole friend group from other people who we've now met online, right?
So that's actually been a problem for me in a way because I moved to New York City and I haven't made any like CRNA New York City friends because I slid into a full social network of friends from TikTok.
They're great. We love it's all these really cool people. It's so fun.
I've been hanging out with Stacy. Okay, so Stacy Rogers from CRNA Method. We became friends through TikTok and she convinced me to come work with her in real life. So I've been hanging out with Stacy.
She's influencing me to try to do the same and I'm pretty influenced. I'm not going to lie.
I know, it's so fun. I've been hanging out with Milo, who is a CRNA from Sweden, who is experiencing nursing in the US, and it is hilarious hearing his opinions. If only I spoke Swedish and could hear the stuff he's saying on the internet.
I like watch his stuff and I'll like it just to support, but I don't
no idea
speak his language on TikTok. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's Milo. Yay.
Yeah, I've been hanging out with Milo and his partner Gabriel, and then and Chris Lucia, who is he works per diem as an ER nurse. He's also a aesthetic NP, and he does my Botox. And it's like,
and he's got great taste in food, and he's a lot of fun.
My goal for this summer is to hang out with CRNAs in real life for my job. But it's cool too because I've had nurses on social media reach out to me and say, hey, if you're looking for a friend in New York City, let me know. I'd love to hang out. And it's funny because like the DMs get so flooded, I like forget who said that. Yeah. So I actually like would love to hang out with them, but like I can't find the message. But know that social media, if you do content creation, it's a really amazing way to make friends too. I mean, that's how Anna and I met. And look, now we run a business together.
Woohoo! It's crazy. We met up in Philly and we ended up like riding scooters and singing songs together like night one, because you skip all of this in between like getting to know each other, because if you show up online authentically as yourself, then people, they know who you are and like what you're about. So even when you meet on day one, you've like skipped like months of getting to know each other, because like I'll see how you're authentically showing up day in and day out. You'll see how I authentically show up And then we already know that we're going to be like good friends, which is really fun. And between the hybrid of the travel nursing community / meeting other people on social media, I feel so lucky that I could pop over to like most major cities, and I know that one of my people are there. And it's like,
there.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, Cade is currently in San Diego, but before that, he was up in Seattle, and then ICU Merce is in Seattle. I've got the people in Portland. We need to go back to Miami. Like, there's some Texas people, there's Colorado people, like. Not even just social media, but just the travel nursing community alone is like really tight knit. I think there's only about 30,000 of us working at any given time,
wow,
which is a smaller community than the anesthesia community. Anesthesia is about 60,000 CRNAs. So if you find yourself in the travel nursing community, you'll find people who are like-minded, who want to travel, and who are like really looking for specific things to like enhance their experiences while they're in a certain area. So empowering travel nurses is something we're super passionate about at Confident Care Academy. And empowering travel nurses to choose the best contract fit for them is something that Fusion Marketplace does so exceptionally well. Fusion Marketplace consists of over 20 different travel agencies located centrally online and on an app.
As a person who's contacted by recruiters all the time, I love that Fusion Marketplace respects your privacy. They won't give out your contact information to recruiters unless you're interested in the job. So that makes your experience shopping for contracts really hassle-free.
When the right contract pops up, you don't want to miss it. And creating a traveler profile increases speed of placement at these ideal jobs.
Fusion Marketplace has over 20,000 jobs currently available, so make sure you check out the link below so that you find the best job that's on the market today.
When you're exploring new cities, Fusion Marketplace also has this resource that isn't talked about often. It's a blog that has resources and guides to exploring whatever city or area you're currently working in as a travel nurse.
Wait, I love that. That's so cute.
If you're watching on YouTube, we'll flash up on the screen one of their example travel guides. I believe this one is for Seattle. It has guides on recommendations for dining, bars, for sightseeing, hiking. Make sure that you check out the Fusion Marketplace blog as you're really trying to get the most out of your experience as a travel nurse. In addition to checking out the blog on Fusion Marketplace, what are some other places and resources that you've found things to do in new cities?
Oh my God. Well, I know that you use this too, and we talk about this in our Instagram stories all the time. We both love Classpass. You can find so many cool things going on in your city. You just buy credits every month and then just kind of like shop for like activities and experiences and workout classes. It's a great way to meet people.
It's not sponsored, but we wish it was.
We wish.
So I'm a big group fitness girl, and if you buy like all these boutique memberships to like one studio, you're all over the place, you're not living in the same area. With ClassPass, it's like, okay, I can do one berries class a week, one solid core class, and then I have a little bit of extra leftover credits, and I could sign up and do like a massage or a facial or something like that. This is also great for going, like Chrissy was talking about with salsa classes, to go to, like, to the same class every week, and then like meeting people and meetups that way. I've actually met a fair number of people where I go to grad school through ClassPass. We meet up, we're chatting, and then we'll exchange numbers and we'll talk about like going to a yoga class or something together. So that's a great way to like get out of the house on your days off and do something that doubles as self-care and also like as networking and like getting outside.
So if you follow an Instagram page like Explore Philadelphia, Explore NYC, just start searching hashtags for your area and you'll find different pages to follow. A lot of them will tell you about upcoming events, which could be great things to invite your new friends along to or meet people at as well.
Completely agree about the Instagram events. One of my friends who's really into house music has made connections that way, just like through following Instagram accounts. And then we get to the events and then he's already met people. So then we're able to kind of figure out like what new stuff is happening in the city. That's been a really fun way to network like really quickly. Definitely recommend the Instagram accounts. If you're kind of more of an outdoorsy type of person, All Trails and Hiking Project and MTB Project are great for finding trails, and you can compare like the elevation profile, like how much climbing, how long it's going to be, parking. So if you're somebody who's trying to organize like a hike or a meetup with other people, I think it's always like good practice to look at the trail beforehand and like make sure that there's like parking and that it's not going to be like 2,000 feet of climbing and a 2-mile hike, something like that. So like you can read and research your outdoor activities that way as well. And that's something I absolutely recommend. And then I also am like now I'm getting into music more than I had been in the past, just like, I mean, even just like Ticketmaster to like get tickets to events that are happening in your area, you know?
Yeah, looking ahead for like concerts and different like live music stuff. A lot of times in the summers, there's also like free outdoor music series in a lot of places. But the last thing that I think we can offer people is Airbnb Experiences. Guys, this is not sponsored either, but I use this when I go on vacation and travel a lot. But if you are in a city, that's another great opportunity to, again, meet people. You're going to meet travelers, people who are popping through. You could do like a lot of really fun stuff. Like I know in Austin, those like little, you can float down the river and those inner tubes. That's like
fun.
That's like a fun Airbnb. Like you can find that on Airbnb Experiences. You can also find it through like just different travel websites also. But I just think it's a really easy platform to use.
It's also great for date nights too. If you're trying to do something that's like super special. I was looking around the area where I'm living just to do stuff with friends too. And it's like horseback riding and like whiskey tasting. I've even seen like skydiving on there. Of course, like make sure that you're researching to make sure that it's all like safe and like good reviews and all of that stuff. But if you're looking to do something other than just like going out to a brewery or going out to a restaurant, Airbnb Experiences can be a really cool way to like actually dig deep into either the culture or some fun like local activities within the area that you're living. That's definitely something that I'm also doing as I'm exploring while I'm in grad school.
I think our fifth and final tip for you guys is to don't be afraid to do things alone either. So I think most of us are very reluctant at first to do things like take yourself out to a restaurant alone. You're afraid of how it's going to look. It feels weird. There's a temptation to kind of just like hide yourself in your cell phone. Take yourself out on dates. Go to that live music place alone. Go to a restaurant alone. I practiced this when I was a nurse, a bedside nurse. I used to, on my way home from night shift, I would stop at the Morning Glory Diner in South Philly. Love you, Moglo. And I would just like sit down and have a really giant, delicious breakfast before passing out in bed. And it was nice. Like the wait staff knew me and I kind of made friends with them that way. And I just developed some really fond memories there. And it was a really nice self-care moment. And it helped me to not feel self-conscious or afraid to go out and do things by myself when I'm traveling.
This is a much bigger life lesson in general. Oh my gosh, if you're comfortable with yourself and you're in a position where you can be a travel nurse or like a travel CRNA, oh my gosh, the world is your oyster. Like to learn to not hold yourself back from experiences just because you might do them alone, such a huge life lesson. When I was really young, I think there was this like cultural understanding that like women were supposed to just like get married and have kids, and like ending up single and alone is the worst thing that could happen to a woman. Oh my gosh, single now, 27, I go places alone and it's great. So nice.
So nice.
So don't be afraid of learning to become comfortable with your own company, you know? And I think that's something that just, that honestly makes me a little emotional, that we can like explore so much of this beautiful country and of the world. And if you can do it comfortably with just yourself, oh my gosh, you can have so many amazing experiences.
Drop a comment below of what you'd like to hear next time, and we'll see you there.